There is a moment in this broadcast that no network ever replayed in full. Not because it was not important, because the 47 seconds it lasted contained more damage than any single institution was prepared to absorb, explain, or contain. You could feel it on every platform before you could name what it was. By midnight, the clip has been fractured into 19 independent segments, each one traveling through a different audience at a different velocity. By 1 odd a.m., the phrase three hosts used simultaneously. The same word, spoken in unison, unrehearsed, captured by 3 separate microphones, is trending in 26 countries. By 2 a.m., 2 networks have cut into overnight programming to broadcast the moment beside a split screen of the president's face. And the contrast between the 3 voices on stage and the single voice unraveling on a phone screen is so stark that anchors let it sit without commentary for 90-second stretches, the silence of the newsroom becoming an editorial in itself. By 4 a.m., Trump has posted 9 times. The first post is 4 sentences. The 9th is 11 sentences, every word capitalized, containing 3 exclamation marks and a threat to invoke emergency broadcasting powers that do not exist in any statute, on any book, in any jurisdiction. By sunrise, the words have been printed on signs outside the FCC's headquarters. By noon, a sitting Supreme Court justice has referenced the broadcast, without naming it, in an unrelated oral argument about regulatory overreach, and every attorney in the courtroom understands the reference. And none of them smile, because what happened last night is not funny. It was never supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be the sound of 3 doors opening at the same time, in a building where every door was supposed to stay locked. Here is what happened inside that building. The venue is the Town Hall Theater on West 43rd Street in Manhattan. It belongs to no network. Its stage has been stripped to raw wood. No desk, no set, no branding, no curtain. 3 chairs sit in a shallow arc facing the audience. 3 microphones on short stands. 1 table positioned behind the chairs, holding a reading lamp, a water pitcher, and a stack of documents secured with a binder clip that catches the overhead light and throws a small bright point against the back wall. The only decoration in a room that has been deliberately emptied of everything except the architecture of confrontation. The house holds 1,500 seats. Every seat is full. The audience was admitted through 3 entrances, each one managed by a different network's security team. Phones were not confiscated. No one was asked to sign anything. The only instruction given at the door was a single sentence printed on a card, handed to every person who entered. Tonight's broadcast is simulcast. It is live. There is no delay. The card does not explain why the absence of a delay matters. By the end of the evening, every person holding one understands. The lights dim at 9 p.m. Eastern. The 3 hosts enter from stage right. Kimmel walks first. His stride is heavy, his weight pressing into each step with the deliberateness of a man who has learned over the past several weeks that the ground he walks on is less stable than he assumed and has decided to test it with every footstep. His suit is charcoal. His hands hang at his sides, open, fingers slightly spread as though ready to catch something or push something away. He reaches his chair, the leftmost, and stands behind it without sitting, his right hand resting on the back, his eyes sweeping the audience with the slow patience of a man counting every face he needs to find. Colbert enters beside him, faster, his energy compressed and kinetic, the walk of a man whose body wants to run and whose mind has told it to wait. His glasses catch the cold overhead wash and flash once. He reaches the center chair and places both hands on its back, mirroring Kimmel without looking at him, as though the gesture is a reflex that both men share without having discussed it. Stewart enters last. His walk is the slowest of the 3. Not heavy like Kimmel's, not restrained like Colbert's, but measured in a different way. The walk of a man who has been away from stages long enough to feel the strangeness of returning to one, and has decided to let the strangeness be visible rather than perform past it. He wears no tie. His sleeves are rolled to mid-forearm. He reaches the rightmost chair and stands behind it, his eyes locked on a point in the middle of the audience. Not scanning, not sweeping, just holding. The look of a man who has something specific to say, and is waiting for the room to be ready to hear it. 4 seconds of silence. The room holds its breath. Then all 3 sit, simultaneously, without a signal, the synchronicity accidental and devastating. 3 bodies arriving at the same position at the same moment, and creating, in the sound of 3 chairs accepting 3 weights, a single beat that the audience absorbs as a beginning. Kimmel speaks first. His voice is low, stripped of performance, carrying only the flat intimacy of a man talking to people he trusts about something that frightens him. 6 days ago, a directive was issued by the White House Office of Communications to the Federal Communications Commission requesting, and I am using the word from the document, requesting, that the Commission initiate coordinated license reviews of the 3 broadcast networks that carry our shows. He pauses. Coordinated, not separate, not independent, coordinated. One action aimed at 3 targets timed to land on the same day. Colbert leans forward. His elbows rest on his knees. His hands are folded. I want to be specific about what coordinated means in this context. It means the directive included a timeline. Day 1, formal notification to the networks. Day 3, public announcement of the reviews. Day 5, congressional allies issue supporting statements framing the reviews as bipartisan accountability measures. He looks at Kimmel. Kimmel nods once. Colbert looks at the audience. The directive has a schedule. Censorship has a project plan. Stewart speaks for the first time. His voice arrives in the room the way a hand arrives on a shoulder. Firm, personal, carrying weight without raising volume. I left television, voluntarily, and I have spent 3 years being asked why. People assumed I was tired. People assumed I was burned out. Some people assumed I just ran out of things to say. He pauses. His left hand moves to the arm of his chair and grips it. I came back tonight because I realized I didn't leave, because I ran out of things to say. I left because I was operating under the assumption that the basic infrastructure of speech, the legal framework that allows a person to stand on a stage and say true things into a microphone, was stable, was permanent. Another pause. That assumption is no longer operational. A woman in the 7th row presses both hands flat against her thighs, fingers spread, as though bracing for turbulence. A man near the aisle drops his gaze to the floor and keeps it there, his jaw working side to side in the slow, unconscious motion of a person processing information that does not fit inside the space they had prepared for it. The screen behind the stage activates. The directive appears. 5 pages, displayed in sequence, headers visible, redaction bars covering 3 names but leaving titles legible. Kimmel narrates. He reads the first page. Colbert reads the second. Stewart reads the third. They do not divide the labor theatrically. They divide it the way people at a table divide a bill, practically without ceremony, each one picking up the piece nearest to them. The 4th page contains the coordination timeline. Kimmel reads it aloud. Day 1, Day 3, Day 5. The dates are not hypothetical. They are past. Day 1 was 6 days ago. Day 3 was 4 days ago. Day 5 was 2 days ago. Every scheduled milestone has been executed. Every domino has fallen in order. The only milestone remaining, Day 7, labeled Public Compliance Confirmation from Networks, is tonight. This broadcast is Day 7, and the 3 men on this stage are delivering the opposite of compliance. The screen changes. 3 timelines appear in parallel. 1 for each show, color-coded, tracking monologue topics against FCC inquiry dates, advertiser withdrawal notices, and internal network communications flagged as regulatory-related. The timelines run independently for months and then, 6 weeks ago, converge. The convergence point is labeled with a single date, the date the directive was drafted. Before that date, the pressure was distributed, scattered, deniable. After that date, it becomes unified, synchronized, and aimed. That is not coincidence, Stewart says. He stands. He walks to the screen and places his hand on the convergence point, his palm flat against the LED surface, his fingers spanning 3 timelines at once. That is archaeology. Someone buried this, layer by layer, meeting by meeting, call by call. And what we are doing tonight is not commentary. It is excavation. The word enters the room and stays. Archaeology, the systematic unearthing of structures that time and intention have buried. The careful removal of sediment to reveal a shape that was always there, always functional, always bearing weight, invisible only because the people who built it understood that its power depended on no one seeing it operate. Stewart returns to his chair. He does not sit. He stands behind it, his hands resting on its back, and looks at Kimmel and Colbert. Some communication passes between the 3 of them. Not spoken, not gestured, but present, visible to the audience the way heat is visible above asphalt. Then he sits. A door opens at the side of the stage. A man enters. He is wearing a visitor's badge on a lanyard that he has twisted around his index finger, winding and unwinding it as he walks. The repetitive motion of a nervous system looking for somewhere to put energy that cannot be spoken. He is a former policy coordinator who worked on broadcast regulation at the FCC for 2.5 years. He does not identify which chairman he served under. He does not need to. He stands at the edge of the stage, his feet positioned precisely on the line where the wood meets the wings meeting's rubber matting and speaks with the constricted precision of someone who has been told by an attorney exactly how much he is allowed to say and has decided to say exactly that much and not one syllable less. He describes the directive's origin, not the document Kimmel holds, the mechanism that produced it. A series of meetings, 4 over 3 weeks, between the chairman's chief of staff and a liaison from the White House Office of Communications. The meetings were not logged in the commission's public scheduling system. They were logged in a secondary system that the coordinator helped maintain, a system whose existence he confirms tonight for the first time outside of a deposition he gave 3 weeks ago under seal. The system tracked what we called alignment contacts, he says. Communications between the Commission and the executive branch that were related to active or anticipated enforcement actions. The contacts were not illegal. They were not classified. They were simply kept apart from the primary record so that they would not appear in response to congressional oversight requests or FOIA inquiries. He pauses. His hand stops winding the lanyard. Silence doesn't protect anyone. It just makes the people who enforce it more comfortable. He steps back. The lanyard falls still against his chest. A second person enters. She is older, wearing a dark cardigan buttoned to the collar, her hands clasped in front of her with the rigid composure of someone whose body has been instructed to remain still and is obeying under protest. She is a former senior producer at one of the 3 networks. She does not say which one. She describes the week after the directive arrived. She describes the meeting in which the network's standards department presented the show's executive producer with a document titled Revised Content Parameters. The document contained a list of topics ranked by regulatory risk. At the top of the list, satirical references to the president. Below it, references to the FCC, to broadcast licensing, to executive orders related to media. At the bottom, labeled unrestricted, weather, celebrity interviews, cooking segments, pet adoption. Her voice breaks on the word unrestricted, not because the word is emotional, because the word, in this context, describes a cage. The small space left over after everything dangerous has been removed. The space where a comedian is allowed to stand and still be called free. Her throat works. Muscles contract and release beneath skin that has gone pale under the stage lights. A tear tracks from her left eye to her jaw. She does not wipe it. "I'm not betraying the family," she says. "I'm betraying a lie." The sound begins in the balcony. One person stands, then a second. A man in the orchestra section brings his hands together. Not fast, not loud, but with the full weight of a body committing to a single gesture. The clapping spreads in waves, each wave slower than the one before it, as though the room is learning a rhythm it has never practiced. A woman in the 4th row stands with her arms at her sides, not clapping, just standing, her chin lifted, her eyes closed, her presence the only statement her body knows how to make. The clapping holds for 16 seconds. It does not build. It does not peak. It sustains the way a pulse sustains, because stopping is not an option the body has been given. The 3 hosts sit in the sound. Their faces carry different weights. Kimmel's jaw locked, his eyes fixed on the middle distance, the muscles at his temples visible. Colbert's hands pressed flat against his knees, his breathing measured, his glasses reflecting the cold overhead light in 2 small points that do not move. Stewart leaning forward with his forearms on his thighs, his head slightly bowed, his posture carrying the specific gravity of a man who left and came back and is now sitting inside the reason he came back. The clapping fades. The room settles into a silence that is not empty but full, saturated with everything that has been said and everything that the people who said it will carry when they leave this stage. Colbert speaks first. His voice is barely above a whisper, carried more by the theater's acoustics than by his own lungs. "The archaeology is done," he says. "What's buried is now on the table." Kimmel speaks next. 3 shows, 3 networks, 1 directive. And the only thing the directive accomplished is putting the 3 of us in the same room for the first time. Stewart speaks last. He looks at the camera. His eyes do not blink. You built a system to silence 3 microphones, and instead, you gave them a reason to turn on at the same time. That is not power. That is the opposite of power. That is the sound a machine makes when it has been running so long that it forgets what happens when someone unplugs it. He holds the camera for 5 seconds. Then he looks at Kimmel, then at Colbert, then at the audience. The archaeology is done. The alignment contacts are in the record. The directive is on the screen. And the 3 of us are still sitting here. Not because we are brave, because the alternative, sitting at home, watching our own microphones go dark one by one, pretending that the silence was our choice, that alternative is not something any of us can carry. Not anymore. At midnight, the control rooms at 3 networks simultaneously switch to local programming. The town hall stage sits empty. The reading lamp is still on. The documents remain on the table, held open by the binder clip, the pages curling slightly in the air conditioning. A stagehand later says she stood in the wings for 10 minutes after the broadcast ended, looking at the 3 empty chairs, and could not bring herself to fold them. At 12:14 a.m., the first of 9 presidential posts appears. It calls the broadcast the most disgraceful, coordinated attack in the history of American television. It demands immediate suspension of all broadcast licenses held by ABC, CBS, and any network affiliated with this conspiracy. By the 4th post, the sentences have lost their structure. Clauses running into each other, capitalizations appearing mid-word, exclamation marks arriving in pairs. By the 7th, the posts have stopped addressing the broadcast and have begun addressing the hosts individually, each name followed by a threat that cites no statute and references no authority. The 9th post, at 4:33 a.m., is a single sentence: "They will pay for this." The sentence is screenshotted and placed beside the image of 3 empty chairs on an empty stage. The reading lamp still burning, the documents still open. On one side, a threat. On the other, 3 chairs that are not afraid of it. At 3:17 a.m., a wire service receives an anonymous communication on FCC internal letterhead. The communication is 2 paragraphs. It confirms the existence of the secondary scheduling system. It confirms the 4 meetings between the chairman's chief of staff and the White House liaison. It confirms the dates match the timeline displayed on the town hall stage. The final sentence reads, "These records should not require anonymous disclosure. Their absence from the public record is itself a policy failure that silence can no longer sustain." The wire service verifies the letterhead against public records. It matches. The story does not end. It cannot end. It has become self-sustaining, a reaction that produces its own fuel. Congressional offices announce hearings. Legal organizations file challenges. The word archaeology appears in the opening paragraphs of briefs, in the chyrons of morning broadcasts, in the handwritten signs held by people standing outside the FCC's headquarters who have never watched late-night television and are not here because of comedy. They are here because 3 empty chairs on an empty stage, lit by a single reading lamp, have become the image of something they did not know they needed to see until they saw it. The image of a space that was supposed to be silenced and refused. The chairs will be folded eventually. The lamp will be turned off. But the archaeology is permanent. What was excavated cannot be reburied. And the people who built the structure that was unearthed are now standing in the open, visible, blinking in a light they designed every system in their possession to avoid. The people who subscribe to this channel do not come for drama. They come for the moments nobody else is willing to show. Join them, subscribe, turn on notifications. The next truth is already on the table.